Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to a brand new Pick a Side live reaction. We are here after the Pacers eliminated the Cavaliers from the playoffs and have made the Eastern Conference Finals for a second year in a row. And OKC thugging out two clutch victories back to back against the more experienced, championship seasoned Denver Nuggets. We're going to talk about that. Mr. Dells is joining me tonight. And we also have Mr. John Tortorelli, who's getting accustomed to things. He just moved into a brand new house. The Wi-Fi's been acting up a little bit, but it looks like he got it all figured out. I mean, John, how do you feel?
I don't feel great. I feel great to be here, but Game 5 was a tough pill to swallow, tough fourth quarter for the Nuggets. But I'm excited to kind of talk about these. Maybe not the Cavalier game, but I'm excited to talk about the Pacers. Excited to talk about the any of this Thunder Nuggets game.
John, out of curiosity, what are you sitting on?
A chair?
Not a chair. It's like a bed / like miniature couch.
Okay, it just seems you seem like kind of low.
Yeah,
like it seems lower than like a typical chair. That's why I asked.
Yeah, it's not a chair, but it's like
okay.
a
You look good though,
piece of
man.
furniture.
Good.
Yeah.
As long as this is comfortable, that's all that matters, John.
Respect.
Now, for everybody in the chat, we have 86 live viewers right now. We appreciate you guys for pulling up. Make sure that if you want to support the podcast, you support Prize Picks as well. Use code PAS. You play $5, you get $50. I'll put the little logo on the top here because we have these logos available to us. If you go and use that code on the top right, PAS, you play $5 and you get $50. It's another way to support the podcast without viewing or liking or subscribing our content. That's always going to be number one. But this is our sponsor. So if you guys want to support us, also support them. Now, I feel like the game that we have to talk about first has to be OKC beating Denver. I think this was an impressive victory. They beat them 112-105. This was OKC's most impressive victory of the season. Outscoring Denver 34-19 in the fourth quarter. For Shea to have the first half that he had, and for him to play as well as he did in the second half, for J-Dub to hit a clutch open three, for Lou Dort to lead the spark by draining 3 threes and having 9 of his 12 points in the fourth quarter, for Chet to have a weak side block on Jamal Murray when he's driving to the basket and just sending his shot. OKC showed tonight that they are ready for the moment. I thought they simply weren't. In the third quarter, in the first half, these two teams looked so much different than each other. One team looked more organized offensively. The playmaking liabilities for Shea were on display in the first half. And then in the fourth quarter, he was just responsible for most of their offense down the stretch. But it really is about their role players stepping up in pivotal moments, because I think Lou Dort was a huge swing in this game. I thought the Jalen Williams lineups when he was in there instead of Hartenstein, it opened up the spacing of their offense because he was able to attack closeouts and dribble driving. He offers more as a passer, and I think his athletic ability, just being mobile and smaller, was more useful on a defensive side of the ball, and it was much needed to give Hartenstein a breather so he could end out closing a game. This was a very impressive victory. I was very impressed by OKC. We have 4 clutch wins in this series, 2 of them by Denver, 2 of them by OKC, and Denver got cold at the wrong time. And this time it was Jokic that played really well in the fourth. Last game, he was 2 for 7. This one, he was 4 for 6. He had 13 points. Everybody else was 1 for 15. They couldn't hit a shot. So even with Denver giving up certain shots on defense, which you live with Lou Dort, you live with J-Dub based on how he was playing with an open 3-point shot. It's another game where they're not able to win because they simply run out of gas offensively in the fourth and in these closing minutes.
Yeah, it feels like it's a recurring theme where on one night where Jokic maybe doesn't play as well, the supporting cast has stepped up multiple occasions. But tonight was different where you get a vintage game, 44-15, has a really reinforcing or really positive 3-point shooting game, goes 5-7 from the 3-point land. But the issue, of course, was in the fourth quarter, like you highlighted, Oklahoma City caught fire. Lou Dort played a great game, shot 3 of 6 from 3-point land, and the supporting cast stepped up big. Shea had a lot of good plays to Isaiah Hartenstein, and it felt like on the other side, there was just a lid on the rim for the Nuggets. They go 1-11 from 3-point land in the fourth quarter. Jokic hitting the only three. And it felt like, and I felt this way the entirety of this series, the Nuggets need to get a good game from either Russell Westbrook or Michael Porter Jr. So they can rely on one of those two guys to close. And they didn't get that from either of those two guys today. Of course, Michael Porter Jr. goes 1 of 7 from the field for a second game in a row. And then Russell Westbrook today, up until the fourth quarter, he did his job, but there were a few very bad misses that he had, which were kind of disappointing because it felt like for the majority of this postseason run, he wasn't having those bad misses. And it kind of built on top of that. They got good play from Peyton Watson. He had 8 rebounds off the bench, but he had a few threes rim out. And it was really the same exact story for a lot of the guys, Jamal Murray. And I felt like Christian Brown early got going in the second half of the game. He really was not aggressive getting his shot. And so it felt like this was a game that would not only decide the series, but I even saw a tweet that I think kind of highlights this game very well. This game right here, game 5 of the second round, could decide who wins the championship this season. I feel like these are the 2 best teams along with Minnesota, and I think those are the 3 best odds of winning the championship this season. So I feel like for Denver, you had to get this win on the road to feel great about yourself moving into, of course, game 6. But I think for the time being, they're going to need really the entirety of these role players to step up moving into game 4, and a lot of them just played 40 minutes tonight.
Yeah, super, super impressive win from the Thunder. I think there's a plethora of things to look at when you're looking for a champion, but I think the number one thing you have to look at is how do you respond when you have a bad game or a bad quarter. And to see how poorly OKC played in game 3 down the stretch, where it was just a meltdown from everybody, right? Your MVP, your secondary options, and J-Dub and Chet, your role players, nobody stepped up in that game 3. And it felt like that was a missed opportunity to really take control of the series. And you bounce back with back-to-back clutch wins over the Denver Nuggets. In game 4, you outscored them by 11 points in the fourth quarter. In this game 5, you outscored them by 15 points in the fourth quarter. They were going into this fourth down, trailing by 8 points. And it felt like for a majority of the game, for the first 3 quarters, Denver was in control, right? You mentioned it, Joel. In that first half, Shea was not playing up to his expectations. That third quarter, Denver was able to build upon their lead. And in the fourth quarter, though, you got some big time clutch moments. It started with Lou Dort hitting, I believe, 3 threes in that fourth quarter. You had SGA hit multiple clutch shots, the and one in the mid range, and then the 3 that was basically a dagger at the end. It was just an awesome game from the Thunder, right? This was a team that I think we all questioned a bit after that game 3 loss. Are they ready to, really compete for a championship? Are they ready to kind of close the door in these clutch time, big time moments? And it was fine to question them, but also I think, you still have to give them the benefit of the doubt because of how great we saw this team play for, 80 plus games this season, right? Even in that Memphis series that, we knew for a fact that the Thunder were going to be able to win. There were still some games there where the Grizzlies played them tough and they had to come out and, make some big time buckets down the stretch. For the Nuggets, you got Nikola Jokic masterclass, long overdue, right? He had 3 straight games where he was terrible. The longest stretch of bad Jokic play we have seen in like 4 or 5 plus years at this point. He bounces back in a big way, has 44 points, clutch down the stretch. Just an insane game. The 3 he hit one-legged over Hartenstein or Chet, whoever it was just insane. But I really think what the story has been these last 2 games for the Nuggets has been Michael Porter Jr. just completely disappearing. Over 10 his last 3-point attempts. 4 to the 5 games this series, he scored under double-digit points. And of course, we know probably the biggest reason is because of the shoulder injury, right? Going back to the first round of the playoffs, he said that if this was the regular season, I would be out multiple weeks. I would be out maybe a month plus. But since the playoffs, I'm going to do everything I can to play through this. And he's had some moments, a couple games in that Clippers series, game 2, I believe, or game 3 in this series where he does score 20 points. He goes like 4 for 5 or 5 for 6 from 3-point land. And he looks like the Michael Porter Jr. that, we've seen throughout the season. But for a majority of this series, that hasn't been the case. And he's been missing open looks and obviously contested looks go along with that. But he has just not looked comfortable at all. And you really start to think, can you close with him going forward? I feel like he's going to be staying in the starting lineup just because, he's been a mainstay there. And if he does start off hot, you would like the like to have him out there. But I mean, at some point, I feel like you have to pull the plug if you're David Adelman, because you've seen 2 games in a row now of Michael Porter Jr. just being completely non-existent, right? Just being a complete, I don't want to say liability, but on offense, a bit of a liability out there. Just someone who is losing a bit of confidence, who has no rhythm to his game. And it's hard because they just don't really have a lot of players you could trust right now on the bench. Russell Westbrook had a brutal air ball 3. So is he the guy you're going to be closing with instead? There's not really an easy answer here. But I think, again, just to go back to the top, incredible win for the Thunder. Jokic did all he could. Jamal Murray, had a decent game, 28 points, not the best of efficiency, but really the only other guy that was showing up offensively for this Nuggets team. And now you're going back to Denver in a must-win game. I think Denver wins Game 6. I do think this goes 7. This is how the series has been. It's been nail biters outside of really that one blowout. So I do think Denver takes Game 6 and we get a Game 7 back in the Oklahoma City. But these are 2 huge confidence-building wins for this young Thunder team, not just for this series, but I think going forward, because I do think they end up winning this series and probably reaching the NBA Finals. These are the wins that make you feel confident as a young team and really helps you, take that extra step in terms of securing a championship.
I think OKC ends it next game. I think Denver looks gassed, and I think OKC smells blood in the water. I know it's on the road, but that altitude, even if Denver's used to it, is still an adjustment for them too. I think OKC takes care of business, and the way Shea played in the second half, I thought in the first half, the offense for OKC, even in the third quarter, I'm not a fan of it. I really don't like it. I feel like sometimes they play right into the defense's hands. The zone defense was giving them a lot of trouble. And what would happen is that Shea would pass the ball because he's getting doubled, and then the ball would end up in like J-Dub's hands, and he would drive to the basket. They would collapse on him, and you would pass it to the corner to where Caruso or Lou Dort is. And you can kind of close out late on those guys because they're not real super threats from outside. And Denver was also closing out really well too, defensively. So I just feel like OKC played into the hands of Denver a lot defensively. And Denver, you live with certain shots. You live with Lou Dort making 3 threes in the fourth quarter. You're not expecting that. And some of those threes, I think at least 2 of them weren't even wide open. They were just Lou Dort, just heat check threes in transition, just letting it fly. And you're like, I feel like that was the swinging things, because that first 3 that went in for Lou Dort, I felt like at that point in the fourth, around the 8-minute mark, that was the most stagnant OKC's offense has felt the entire series. And when he hit that 3, it was kind of a collective sigh of relief, like, okay, let's relax a little bit. And then he hit those other 2 threes, and that's basically the game. I think the difference is Michael Porter Jr. giving him nothing, but also Russell Westbrook is volatile, and he's going to shoot well sometimes. He's not going to shoot well other times, but for the most part, he's not going to shoot well. And it doesn't matter if he's shooting 80% from 3. Defenses will still not guard him. It doesn't matter. In the Clipper series, he shot 16 for 36 and was 41% from 3. In this series, he's 5 for 25, 20% from 3, in which last game he went 1 for 9 from 3. He is doing all the little things. He's doing all the hustle plays that he's having, but being unable to hit a 3-point shot is really the biggest difference in this series for him. And if he can't hit his threes, it's just hard to have him out there.
Definitely. And it feels like in these clutch games, what it comes down to is the supporting cast shooting well. I feel like in Game 4, you saw that with Aaron Wiggins and Kaysen Wallace in the second half. And then today was Caruso going 3 of 6, and then Lou Dort going 4 of 8. It did feel like 4 or 5 minutes into the fourth quarter, in that middle stretch of the quarter, they got that injection, that boost that they needed. And then, of course, the Nuggets on the other side just went 1 of 11 from 3-point land. Porter Jr. in this series is shooting 7 of 27 from 3-point land. And when you look at, I'm not going to fault him, because it's kind of honestly pretty awesome that he's even going and he's gone through this when he really should not be out there. But it does feel like even if you want to theoretically sit him or move him to the bench, there's no one that you can replace him with, because you need Russ's energy off the bench in the second unit. he's also supposed to kind of spell Jamal, and they play together in the second half. And Peyton Watson's energy has been great off the bench too. But if you put him in the starting lineup, he's a fair weather shooter. He's taking 2.5 attempts per 36. So I feel like no matter what the Nuggets do, you're gonna have to either play an injured Porter Jr. or you're gonna have to sacrifice your depth even more. So I feel like for as tough as it sounds, Porter Jr.'s 2 of 14 his last 2 games. You really kind of have to cut it out there with him in the lineup.
When is Strawther getting some more opportunity? Is it coming?
You saw it today. He had one very nice assist to Russ, or maybe it was Jokic. I think it was Russ. I do think he should be getting more minutes off the bench, and you can kind of fit him into the lineup in those second units, maybe when Shea's off the floor. But I don't think he's going to play anything more than 10 minutes per game. So that's going to be a small sample, and he's just got to hit his shots in that tiny volume off the bench.
Yeah, there's no easy answer. Even when I was, mentioned what you do with Michael Porter Jr., it's just you want to bring in Westbrook, okay, fine. Like Michael Porter might be missing his shots, but like you mentioned, Joel, Westbrook's not going to get respect. You could put Payne Watson in there, you get some more defense, but another guy that's just not going to get respected. Strawther, same thing. It's just there's no easy answer. And, it goes to show that, of course, you need the star power, but as we've talked throughout all of these playoffs, depth matters so much. And right now, with the way Westbrook is shooting, it feels like there's no one you could really, really rely on coming off the bench. Of course, Russ does so much things other than shoot, but in that Clippers series, you saw what the type of impact Russ can have when the shot is falling, because all of a sudden he does all these little things. He's playing defense. He's giving you high energy. And in the corner, he could shoot 40% from 3. And it's like, oh, shit. All of a sudden we have one of the best, 6-man in the NBA. But when that shot isn't falling, and with some of the other spacing issues that Denver is going to have, especially with the way MPJ is shooting, Christian Brown too, it just becomes a really condensed offense, and the floor becomes just even more cramped for a guy like Jokic, who is already going to be seeing 2-3 guys every time down the floor, but it just gets more difficult for him.
It's unfortunate. Jokic was remarkable today. They lost. And when he hasn't been remarkable, the supporting cast has stepped up. You haven't had that game where everybody's just playing really out of their minds for all 4 quarters. That 3 that Jokic hit was just otherworldly. I thought that right there was going to be the spark that Denver needed to close out the game. But OKC, Shea down the stretch came up huge, and J-Dub hitting that 3. I was even astonished by how open they left him. I know he was struggling, but if you're J-Dub in that moment being left that open, that is the ultimate sign of disrespect. Yeah. If he didn't hit that shot, I would have been really critical of him.
Yeah, no, he was left wide open in that corner. I don't know. I mean, I guess you have to double, right? I forgot what. I guess Jokic had the ball, or not Jokic. Shea had the ball.
They swung it to Lou Dort at the wing, and then Lou Dort swung it to him. And it just was so open. He could have stayed there for 10 seconds and nobody would have been around him.
It's a big shot though, still.
Yeah, no, it was a very big shot. That's why that right there was just like, okay, that's it. That's it. They got it. We have some super chats. AD goes, Jokic, no help, but Gordon has saved 2 games himself.
He did.
Yeah, and I feel like the no help thing is kind of a little silly.
He does have help. Yeah. It's just every supporting cast is inconsistent. Just look at Celtics game 4.
Yeah, it's a fact. I mean, Tatum, super team. Tatum shows up. No one else does.
Jay Greedo, I'm so tired of watching Jokic flip and jump on people debate calls. OKC, please end this shamelessness.
Have you watched Lou Dort? And the 2 of them go back and forth. It's kind of incredible. It's 2 of the best, biggest floppers in the NBA.
Jokic had one moment in the fourth, I think it was the 4th quarter, with Hartenstein on him, and he tried to do that jump thing without the ball that he got called for in, I think, the Clippers series. Every once in a while, he does some shit. I'm like, bro, you're 7 foot, 300 pounds. You can't be moving like that.
Rodney Rutherford wants me to talk about how I thought OKC was going to lose. Did you see how they looked through 3 quarters? Their offense was lifeless, dude. Did you see that?
Even in that first half, how poorly it felt like they played. They were, I think, down 2 points?
They were down 8 heading into the 4th quarter.
Yeah, for the 4th, yeah. But at halftime, it was still like, 2-point game. They haven't played great, but they're in it.
RJ the God goes, I don't know about y'all, but I was really looking forward to a Celtics with KP versus OKC finals. Could have been a historic series.
I agree.
KP in the playoffs, what is he? He was garbage in Dallas.
All right,
Definitely.
but game 1 last year in the finals, he came in off the bench looking like
Oh wow,
1986 Bill Walton.
one
That's
game. Oh wow,
it's
John.
really it was really one like I love KP to death, but he's really if it wasn't for that quarter, we don't got shit. Like
If I wasn't for that
I
quarter,
mean,
it was
no,
a big quarter. I agree with you. It swung the series for
it set
Boston.
a tone that the Mavericks really weren't gonna have much of a chance in that series,
Oh,
and that was
absolutely.
coming off injuries first came back. I do agree. My finals prediction was, and then I switched it to the Cavaliers. We'll talk about them. That was my finals pick. Didn't age well. It was Celtics Thunder, and I felt like that would have been a great matchup, just with the switchability, the versatility on the wings, and the star power. So it's unfortunate.
My finals pick was Timberwolves Knicks. Always in here.
he's been saying it since October. Yeah.
Always in here. Finals. Knicks Timberwolves finals. Knicks come out on top. Sorry, Julius Randle. Sorry, Anthony Edwards.
John's not
It's
having
not.
his
It's
shit.
not going to happen. Now Sam Thomas goes. This is a super chat, but I'm going to answer some of the nice comments that I like. Brunson versus SGA. Who can draw more fouls? You know what's an even better question is as I was watching Shea's first half stinker, I thought to myself, does Brunson have an argument to be as good as SGA? SGA has a regular season, he has an MVP, but over the last 3 years, Brunson has a better, more proven track record of playing well in the playoffs. Is that a conversation?
Offensively, yeah, I do think it's conversation because Brunson does have a higher floor, even if his efficiency from three hasn't been perfect. Last year, shot 31%. It's just when you add in the size and the versatility that Shea kind of gets an advantage.
Uh, I don't think so. I feel like Shea has been pretty consensus, like top 3 player in the world, and Brunson's been like borderline top 10, 8 to 12 ish range.
He's top 10 stamp.
No, for sure. Right now, he's top 10. He had coming off the game he just had. I don't
Jalen
think it's a
Brunson
conversation. Respectfully,
performed
Brunson.
he's performing better against a better Celtics defense. I think he is a better playmaker offensively.
I
I
agree
think
with
that's
you.
something
Yeah.
that Shea still has to work on. I mean,
Yeah.
Shea has the regular season stuff, but because of the lack of playoff track record, I think so far he's only played 5 playoff series. Jalen Brunson has averaged 30 over the last 3 years in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So
No,
I'm
for
just
sure.
asking, I'm just presenting the conversation and the argument. In the regular season, I understand Shea has been better. He's obviously going to win MVP, but in the playoffs, in a gotta have it moment, can you go
Yeah, I
wrong with
mean,
either of those guys?
in a gotta have it moment, you can make the argument right now. Brunson's the guy you want. What he's given you in the clutch, what he's been giving you all playoffs. Like you could say that. Oh, would you rather have him or Jokic? And you could look at the numbers and be like, oh, Brunson has been playing just as well.
Yeah. Offensively, I'm taking Brunson right now. I would agree that he's a better playmaker, better decision maker. And even though Shea is, like I kind of say, is a 6'6" version of Brunson, Brunson has been generally more efficient from three-point land than, I mean, the difference between them inside the arc isn't as great. Last 2 years, you're talking about Brunson making 48% of his twos, Shea 51%. Shea has been more efficient. I think that's partly a byproduct of just how many more twos he takes in threes. Because Brunson, like I said before, Brunson, you kind of feel like he's a better shooter than the percentages would suggest.
Yeah, and he still finishes great around the rim, mid range, 3-point land. I don't know. And somebody in the comments said they facing different coverages. I mean, they're guarding Brunson really tough too. I mean, do you see what Boston is throwing at him with their defensive versatility? I mean, my goodness. Let's be real. But I'm just saying, if I feel like conversations always come to like, oh, who performs when it matters more, and you could make the argument for Jalen Brunson. It's like in the NFL. I feel like it happens more in the NFL than the NBA, where people value playoff stuff way more than the regular season. In the NBA, I feel like it's kind of like a 50-50 split for the most part. It's not as drastic as the NFL. But yeah, I mean, if you're just talking about Brunson's in the playoffs, yeah.
Their numbers are. I'm just looking at their numbers now. They're pretty close to each other. Efficiency wise, Brunson's been a better 3-point shooter. Shea has really struggled this postseason, 23.4% from three, but they're both 43.5% from the field. Shea now has 4 games scoring 30 plus in the second round. Brunson has just this one in game 4. In game 1, in the first round, Brunson was definitely better, needed to be better. OKC kind of handled Memphis for the most part.
We might see that in the finals.
Yeah.
Knicks plus
Could be.
550 to win it all.
Put a little bread on that, man.
Yeah. You know, I just got my winnings from this Pacers series, and it transitions to this perfectly because the Pacers closed out the Cavaliers. They won 114 to 105. But in the beginning of this game, I kind of told myself, okay, Cleveland wins this one. Pacers close it out in 6 because there was a point in time where the Cavs were leading by 18 points to start this game. They came out firing. They were on a different level. And then the Pacers do what they always do. They just come back. They just stay within the flow of the game. And you cannot sleep on them at any point of the basketball game. They find a way to creep themselves back into it. We saw the game 2 utter collapse the Cavaliers had when the Pacers made a 20-point comeback and beat them. We also saw not game 4, but in game 3, there was a little bit of a comeback there from the Pacers as well. And then in this game, so I'm looking at Indiana and they deserve this victory. And I think Halliburton stole the show. I think Tyrese Halliburton was phenomenal. He didn't start the game out too hot, but 31.6 rebounds, 8 assists. That's what he finished with. He shot 60% from 3. And now he's led the Pacers to back-to-back Eastern Conference Finals. He may have had a stinker last game, but he came out in this game and he shut all the noise down. And the Pacers winning this series in 5, it was not only you tip your hat to what they did, but I mean, this was an emphatic victory. Like winning in 5 against a Cleveland team that just won 64 games. Are you kidding me? The Pacers are a real threat to make the NBA championship, and I'm going on my Knicks, but the Pacers are a team that I recognize you cannot sleep on for 1 second. This team can win it all too.
That's very valid. It feels like what makes the Pacers a special team is how quickly they can catch you lacking. They're one of the quickest teams in the NBA. You get a basket, and immediately they're taking the ball out and they're flying down the court in transition. Like you highlighted, Tyrese Halliburton said it was excellent. Early in this game, he could not miss from three-point land. He goes 10 of 15 from the field for 31 points, 8 assists, and he just gets everybody going so quickly as decision maker where he and Andrew Nembhard together are like lightning in a bottle where this back and forth possession by possession, they're getting high quality looks. And even when they're not, you see Andrew Nembhard hitting a tough look. He goes 3 of 6 today from the field, 7 of 11 from the field, and 36 from three-point land. And in games like this where Miles Turner is kind of quiet, you just see the backcourt taking over. And I felt like the Pacers and what separated them in this series is just the fact that when the shots aren't going in, they were winning on the glass consistently. And I know today they only had 5 offensive rebounds. The Cavaliers had 15, but it just felt like they were winning on the margins and playing a tougher, more physical series than Cleveland. You can highlight the injuries of the Cavs because they are very banged up. Donovan Mitchell's a game-time decision. He thugged it out today. Clearly was not 100%, just giving it whatever he could on that bum ankle of his, and he left it all on the line. But it was clear that throughout the series, the Pacers were the tougher and more resilient team. Like you highlighted, they're down 18 in the second quarter. They're down 19. And I knew the Cavs were going to lose. It was so painful as someone who believed in this team this season. All I wanted to see was a healthy playoff series. And they didn't get that. They did not get a healthy playoff series. But they did not go out with the integrity that I would have liked to see from a team that won 64 games. I felt like they quit. They gave up. Max Drew sent a text to the team before the game. If you don't think we got a chance, don't show up. He played very well in the series. Today was just not his day. It happens sometimes as shooters. But Indiana's guards, they gave Darius Garland and Ty Jerome a tough time. And that, again, goes back to Andrew Nembhard because he's one of the best complementary guards in the league from a defensive perspective. His playmaking, his shot making. It truly is like a mini version of Halliburton, and it makes that Pacers offense relentless. And that's the best way you could describe this team. Because if those two have an off night, like you saw in game 3 and 4, Halliburton did not play well. That's where Siakam and Turner stepped up big time. So last year they called this team a fluke, but this year they made an emphatic statement that this team's not going anywhere.
Pacers are awesome. Pacers are great. I think it was I saw a clip from Kenny who said that the Pacers have been the most impressive team in these playoffs, and I think that's
I'd agree.
a real legit argument. And as you mentioned, John, last year a lot of people discredited them, which we've talked at length over the last couple of weeks about how it's kind of nonsense, right? You just got to play who's in front of you. But winning this series in 5 games, I hope at least, is going to put some respect on the Pacers, because even dating back to last year, through all of the injuries they had, coming back down 2-0 against the Knicks, who of course were dealing with injuries, but still came back from 2-0, had a really tough series against Boston, although they got swept. There were multiple games they probably should have won, including game one, where, you're up 3 with, 7 seconds left, the ball in your hands, you lose that game, up 16 in the third quarter in game 3, and you end up losing that game too. There were multiple chances that they could have, easily extended that series against Boston to potentially 6 or more games. Of course, got injured down the stretch and weren't able to do that. But this was a team that last year in the playoffs was great. This time, this regular season, outside of the first 15-ish games, were phenomenal and have been one of the best teams in basketball for the better part of 4 to 5 months now. And I do think going up against Cleveland, nobody really gave them the chance, me included. Of course, we weren't expecting Darius Garland's injury to be as serious as it was. Mobley gets injured. Hunter, there was so much outside of just what happened on the court that goes into this series, but that doesn't change the fact that Pacers were still the better team for majority of this, right? Even with all the injuries, it is. I don't want to, disrespect or discredit Cleveland, because it's obvious that Darius Garland was not himself this entire series, right? Darius Garland just did not have the same look or the same explosiveness or the same confidence that we saw throughout the regular season that made him like a borderline all-NBA level player. Donovan Mitchell coming back from this ankle injury, I salute him for trying to play. Guts his way to 30-something points. A lot of it just coming from the line because the jump shot really was not falling. Evan Mobley, I thought this was his probably best game of the series. He looked really assertive, and I think Mobley had such a fantastic season that it's not like anyone was low on Evan Mobley, but thought he had a really good game today, was super aggressive, looking for his own shot. And that's probably the biggest question mark, I think, for them going into next season, right? If there is a move to be made, I think Garland is an easy keep, but do you move off Jared Allen and try to see Mobley playing the 5? Because Jared Allen did get exposed multiple times throughout the series. It's an incredibly tough matchup for him, right? Tyrese Halliburton's been able to expose bigs throughout these playoffs, or you think about Giannis one-on-one, the game winner. Just a tough matchup for a super, high-paced team. A guy like Jared Allen going to get switched onto guards. It's just going to be tough for him. But that's probably the only question I think Cleveland really has going into the offseason. And Pacers, they're going to be a tough out. John, you mentioned it before about those teams in the Western Conference, right? Thunder, Denver, Minnesota. And I don't completely disagree with you, right? I think they have a great combination of, they've looked good in these playoffs. I don't think any of them look dominant, but they look good in these playoffs. But they also have like a star player, like a true top 10 guy, whether that's Jokic and Shea being top 3-ish, or Ant-Man being in that, whatever 5 to 10 range, wherever you might have him. But the Pacers right now feel like the deepest team, the most complete team, and the most connected team on both sides of the court, right? This is a team that has prided itself on offense over the last couple of years, but has quietly become a really good defensive team. And they're never going to be this elite unit, but if they're able to play this level of defense where it's going to be difficult to score 110, 120 points on them, they're a team that can consistently put up 120 to 130, because that's just how potent their offense is, and that's how fast they play and how many threes they can get up. And when Halliburton's on like he was today, 30 points, super efficient, they feel really difficult to beat, because these last 2 games, Halliburton was basically non-existent in terms of being a scorer, and they still went 1-1, right? I think he was, I had his numbers up here.
4
He
points
was
and
5
11
for 16 in his last 2 games, right? Only had 15 points combined. They still won one of those games by 20 points, right? So they're an incredibly impressive team. They're going to have a tough series going up against New York, who's also kind of figuring things out at the right time. But the Pacers are right up there in terms of teams that could win the finals. Obviously, they're in the Eastern Conference Finals. I'm not breaking any news here. But I've been super impressed by them all postseason long.
The Cavaliers felt very helpless in the fourth quarter when the Pacers were just hitting them with a barrage of shots, and they just couldn't get a stop. And I was at that point telling myself that, there's no way Cleveland wins this game. And they suckered me back in when Donovan Mitchell hit that crazy 3. It just nothing but net. It went right through the basket. And I said, okay, Cleveland, here's your chance. This is your 64-win team. Go and extend this series. Go take it to 6. And they just missed shots, man. DeAndre Hunter missed open 3. Ty Jerome missed open 3. Donovan Mitchell gets fouled on a 3-point shot and he misses all
All
3
three.
free throws.
That was nuts.
And I'm just like, I mean, that was it right there. That was it. You missed all your free throws. He struggled from the line all game long. And then you have Andrew Nemhard coming down the court and just bodying Darius Garland and getting whatever he wanted and getting all the way inside the paint. And then Miles Turner just with the dagger of all daggers. And that was after that shot, I knew the game was over. Cleveland, there was a chance. It felt like in that game that they were about to come back, but just those open missed shots for them, that's what was really the difference in the game. And we'll talk about Cleveland's future in a bit with the Pacers. I agree with what Kenny said. I think the Pacers, they have the least amount of question marks of any team remaining in the playoffs and of the teams that I expect to make the conference finals. The Pacers have an elite level offense. I can argue the best offense remaining in the playoffs. They have the best bench left in the playoffs. OKC is the only argument with them, and I think Indiana's bench is deeper, to be honest. Since January, they've had a top 8 defensive rating, so they have a great defense. Probably not the strongest defense left in the playoffs, but a great defense nonetheless. Do they have all-stars? Yes. Halliburton and Pascal Siakam. Are they the most unselfish team left in the playoffs? Absolutely. The way they spread the ball around and put stress on defenses that way is something that no other team can replicate right now. They have everything going for them. And I can even argue they have the best coach remaining in the playoffs. When you compare Tom Thibodeau and Chris Finch and Mark Daigneault and David Adelman, I think Rick Carlisle is the best coach remaining in the playoffs. And then they have the supporting cast guys, Andrew Nemhard, Miles Turner. Do they have the best 3-point shooters left in the playoffs? You probably go with yes. You rely on them to make more shots and be consistent from 3 more than most of the teams remaining in the playoffs right now. So when I look at Indiana, they don't have a weakness. There is no weakness. The only weakness you can point to is they don't have Anthony Edwards. They don't have Shea. They don't have Jokic. They don't have Brunson. But Tyrese Halliburton is not that far off from those guys. I mean, Tyrese Halliburton is still a top 15 player in the world, and he is one of the very best point guards in the league. So I think the Pacers have it all.
I think one of the craziest stats going to tonight's game is that the Pacers were shooting 40% from 3-point land as a team this postseason.
Wow.
Tyrese Halliburton was shooting 29%. And I think the difference in this postseason runs is he's been able to assert himself inside the arc, driving, finishing, getting a lot of mid-range looks. He's making 58% of his twos coming to tonight. And that was another theme we saw. He's been good inside the arc. And that's part of why people maybe aren't huge fans of him. There's a lot of variance in his game, depending on how well he's shooting from 3. And when he was dealing with a hamstring injury and was dealing with these recurring issues earlier in the year, it was really affecting his 3-point shooting. And now we're starting to see when he has the 3-point shot on, sure, Pascal Siakam and Aaron Nesmith may not continue shooting 44 and 50% from 3-point land, but you expect Halliburton to get better there. And this team just has so many different guys. Their bench is awesome. You have every single night a new player that steps up. Last game was Obi Toppin. Today, it was Thomas Bryant asserting himself. The next game will be Ben Shepherd. And I felt like the unsung hero on this has been Miles Turner, his defensive play as a rim protector.
Yep.
It's been a little bit up and down. Today was great. And I feel like for Indiana, that's that final piece of the puzzle. When you have Turner defending at a high level, like you said, there's not really a clear glaring weakness unless Halliburton's missing his threes. And he's already been missing them, and they've still been able to win games because of how good he's been everywhere else. So, testament to this team. I don't think many people had them winning the series. I had them losing in 6 games. But I felt after game 1 nervous. And after that, I feel a lot differently about this team. And like you highlighted too, Joel, Rick Carlisle is a great coach. And he wanted to play this way for the longest time. When he got Luka in Dallas, it wasn't a great fit with the two because Luka wanted to slow the pace and play his own way, and Carlisle's a different type of coach. And I think it's been a perfect marriage between him and Halliburton and this Pacers group, which is filled with athletic 3-and-D wings and a lot of different guys who can create a shot.
We've gotten to the point in time in like the playoffs where everybody's predictions were wrong, and it's just picking your favorite team to win the championship now. OKC's still in there, and they were a favorite, but outside of them, there's like so many underdogs right now.
Yeah, underdog's been the story of these playoffs. My only comment is I think Halliburton's been great. I think he's still a little ways away from those players you mentioned, Joel. I still think there's probably a couple gaps, couple tiers between him and definitely Shea and Jokic and probably Ant and probably Brunson.
But Halliburton's a top 15 player in the world.
Yeah, those guys are just probably like top 8.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt. But when you have a player like that leading your offense with the supporting cast,
For sure. I just
that makes a difference.
his
No.
stinkers just can't be like 4 points. They need to be like 15. You know what I mean?
For me, I think that Halliburton, what he showed us in his closeout game, is more of what I think he can be
Oh, for
consistently
sure. For
if he's
sure.
just more aggressive.
Yeah.
And it's what you mentioned, John, about the 3-point shooting not being up to snuff this postseason. As a Knicks fan, that scares me a little bit, because if he has a hot 3-point shooting series with the amount of guys they have around him and a depth they could tap into, that's going to be really tough. But when the Knicks make the finals, I'm getting a tattoo.
Halliburton, 40% of his games this postseason have been under 15 points.
I mean, he impacts the game without impacting the box score.
I mean, yeah, he's one of the best playmakers in the league.
He's one of those guys that he's a eye test analytics guy. You watch him play, you understand the impact. He can have 6 points.
This isn't to like shit on Tyrese Halliburton or anything. This is just comparing him to the players you mentioned. And also the Pacers are now like, the expectations have changed for me. This comes from a team that's like dark horse, overlooked, to now championship contender in my eyes. So I just look at the team differently. I see what are the flaws potentially in the future. And then that's one of them is, when Halliburton has his off game, I can't get a 6-point performance. I can't get a 10-point performance. I need that to be like more 15 on not great efficiency, because it's going to be hard to win a championship if he's going to have a couple of those games in the finals.
But I'll say this, if Tyrese Halliburton wins the championship, it would be the perfect example of what the NBA has transitioned to. You don't have to have a 1A guy to win, as long as you have a cohesive team and you're playing the right way together. And I think that's what the Pacers have been.
Absolutely.
Now, the Cavaliers' future, I don't know if now is a time to panic on them, just because you didn't get a healthy postseason out of Garland, out of Mitchell, even Mobley, even Hunter dealt with something. I watched the Pacers game, and I think the Cavaliers being unable to get in the paint and penetrate the defense was a huge issue. Really, for the majority of the series, since Mitchell rolled his ankle. Garland can't get in the paint because he's clearly still hurting from that toe. Mitchell was a little bit hobbled. He was doing his best to try to fight through the pain, but you can see it bothering him. That's the biggest reason why I felt like their offense just looked discombobulated. I mean, rim pressure is so huge to efficient offense. I mean, that's an entire drive and kick game. And if that gets removed from your offense, it's going to be tough. You start settling on more jumpers, and those jumpers start falling short, and you start becoming more inefficient. I think the Cavaliers right now are still in a position of where they have to see it through. You just won 64 games. Nobody cares about the regular season. I understand that. The moves I would make if I was the Cavs, you have to trade a Okoro to get under the second apron, because you don't want to be over the second apron. We know how much that can limit your team. Ty Jerome, see what you can get back for him in a contract, what it looks like, 2 years, 20 million, 10 million per year, whatever the number might be. Try to get him at a discount, because I think he priced himself out of maybe a heftier contract with these playoffs. Jared Allen, hey, I'm not totally opposed to the idea of trading him. It just depends on where he goes to. But Max Strus, I think, is somebody that becomes expendable. He's making 16 million per year. You have 0 points. You go 0 for 6 from 3. He is an average player. He's an average defender. He's an average shooter. I mean, this is a guy that I don't know if he's a true difference maker in a playoff setting. And I would look to move off of Okoro and Max Strus, bring back Ty Jerome, and then just go back to what we had last year and hope that we're healthy. The biggest thing you got to worry about is the health.
Yeah, that's honestly the Achilles heel of this team. And like you highlighted, they have a $217 million payroll next season. Tough decisions have to be made. And at this point, I'm ready to move off of Jared Allen. I think the best iteration of this Cavalier team is with Evan Mobley as their best player. And that's with him exclusively playing the center in these tight playoff series. Jared Allen last year looked good in 4 games versus the Magic, but outside of that, he has not been good in the postseason in Cleveland. He got punked in 2023 with Mitchell Robinson. And in this series, they were losing on the glass when you're expecting this 2-man front court, this double big lineup with 2 7-footers to be a lot more reliable and a lot more of it as enforcers on the glass. And I felt like in this series, especially, he was becoming a negative for this Cavalier team. He was a negative 24 in game 5. And I have a very hard time thinking that Evan Mobley will reach his full potential and his full ceiling with Jared Allen playing the 5. So I look at him. I do understand the Max Strus point. He was very good this postseason, but if you want to sell high, now is the time. He's 29 years old, and that's a mid-level contract that maybe you can move for younger draft capital. And this team drafted Jalen Tyson this year, someone that a lot of people are high on, with the 20th pick to potentially fill in as one of those kind of rotational wings. And I think lastly, they really should look to bring Ty Jerome back. I know this was kind of a series from hell, unfortunately, but he was awesome in the Heat series. And the regular season, he was fantastic. I just believe he played in a very tough matchup. And I don't think this 5-game series necessarily defined him. The big question here is really just Darius Garland has routinely been hurt in the playoffs. And when you're looking at his all-NBA level play, he's one of my favorite guards to watch in the NBA. It's clear that the Cavaliers should look to get a player who's more durable and a little bit more consistent in these key playoff environments, because he only played 30 minutes per game this year, as did Donovan Mitchell, as did Evan Mobley. Jared Allen played 28. Kenny Atkinson did not get enough credit for managing their health. All of those 4 guys played 70 games. Jared Allen played every single one. He led the league in field goal percentage. But in the postseason, each of those guys, with exception to Allen, got banged up. And I think in Mitchell and Garland's case, it seriously affected their game. And I looked at today, and I guess one more thing I'll talk about. They missed 11 free throws in game 5. And a game that was decided by single digits. That is something which we talked about in the Nugget game the other day. That is something that, which as an NBA team, drives me crazy. And I feel like the injuries just lets this team really wearing down. And in these fourth quarters, they ran out of gas even at the free throw line. And I felt like they really just beat themselves.
Yeah, no, it's a really tough pill to swallow. I think if you're a Cleveland fan, after the regular season you had, it felt like you were shooing to make the ECF, and many people, and I thought, regardless of how I felt about Boston, I thought, Cleveland obviously had a real case to be favored in the Eastern Conference for how dominant they were. They faced off really well against Boston. Of course, they had that crazy comeback win in their last game in like late February, I want to say. So they were awesome all regular season, but it really all is just being able to stay healthy at the right time, right? You get banged up in January, not really a big deal. You get banged up in May, your season's over, right? Like if Darius Garland and Mobley and Mitchell and all these guys are able to stay healthy, who knows what this series looks like? Again, not taking anything away from the Pacers. It's just the truth, because Garland did not look like himself. Mitchell in this game did not look like himself. It is really hard because we could talk about potential moves for Cleveland. We could talk about how you improve the roster. Next season's make or break for this team, right? Like next year really feels like a make or break team, not probably outside of like Mitchell and Mobley. Like those are the 2 absolute mainstays, but for really everyone else, right? Talking about whether that's DeAndre Hunter, Jared Allen, Darius Garland, like next year really feels like if something doesn't break through, if we don't at least make an ECF, it feels like some major changes can happen. I think this season, although it is multiple years in a row now that you're going out before you make the ECF, this is, I think, one year that maybe some Cleveland fans can swallow. Just like another season we just get banged up. We have to try one more time, because we did see when this team was healthy, they were all world and they were historic. And this was one of the best offenses we had ever seen, and some of the talent they have, it's extremely deep. And you had multiple guys that give you 30 any given night. And the leap that we saw from Mobley offensively this year, there still is a lot of things to look forward to. It's just be careful when you start talking about, should we move off Allen, should we move off Garland, should we move off, Max Strus, whoever it might be. It's just who's going to be replacing these players, right? Because we could talk about moving off Jared Allen. Let's move Mobley to the 5. What player are you going to be able to get back that's going to have a similar impact to Jared Allen, who I know in the playoffs maybe underperformed specifically in the second round, but was so important in the regular season? And a guy like Max Strus, who again is a Max Strus. It's not some all NBA level player, but still someone who shot nearly 40% from three in the regular season and was, I think, 40% from three in the postseason and had some big moments in the second round when guys were banged up. So you just have to be careful about, just saying, oh, we got to move off X, Y, and Z and not know what you're getting back, because this team, if you just brought the same exact team, right, with Ty Jerome re-signed, and brought it into the 2025-2026 season, we're still looking at you like a top 5 team in the NBA. We're still looking at you like legit title contenders, even though maybe you haven't proved it yet. That's just how open the East is going to be next season, right? You're still going to be looked at probably as the favorite next year because of the Tatum injury. And, we'll see what happens in the next round with the Pacers and Knicks. Those two teams will be right up there. But it's not like there's going to be any team in the East that's head and shoulders above anybody next year. So it might not be the worst thing in the world if there's any year to just really stick with this team and stick with continuity and not have to make some crazy upgrade from a talent perspective. It's probably next season.
You're not wrong, because it does feel more open next year. So I'm not opposed to them sticking together. I think they should. They should bring back Ty Jerome, and that's probably about all they should do. But let me get crazy. I like getting crazy here. There's a team right now that needs a center.
Oh my God.
The Cavaliers.
How much help does LeBron
might want to move off the center? What about this trade works, by the way? The Lakers get DeAndre Hunter, Jared Allen, Isaac Okoro, and Dean Wade, and the Cavaliers get LeBron James back.
Oh shit!
The Lakers are heading into this Luka era. They need a center. LeBron James goes back to Cleveland.
Oh, that's hilarious, and I would love to see that. I don't think the Lakers do it though.
Can you repeat that return for the Lakers?
The Lakers would get Jared Allen, their starting center. They would get DeAndre Hunter. Those two combined for $43 million. LeBron's player option is $52 million. Isaac Okoro is $11 million per year. They get him. And then you have to throw in Dean Wade in there for $6.6 million. So you get 4 players if you're the Lakers, and then you get LeBron James back if you're Cleveland. You'd have Garland, Mitchell, Strus, LeBron, Mobley, and maybe you bring back Ty Jerome, you sign him back.
That's
a fun package.
Key guys for the Lakers. Like at minimum 3 of them are like legitimately playing every single night, and maybe a Coro too, because their team is just not deep at all.
It's a great return for the Lakers.
It's an awesome return.
If you're the Lakers, it's like this is what you need to build around Luka for the next couple of years.
Mm-hmm. DeAndre Hunter finally ends up there after being the 4th overall pick that they traded by way of the Anthony Davis trade, which ended up in Atlanta. Fun fact: that would be an ideal move for the Lakers because LeBron's 40. He could retire tomorrow, and then you're going to get nothing for him. But if I'm Cleveland, I know that this is kind of grim, and not everyone, a lot of people ran with the 2015 Atlanta Hawks comparison for this year's Cavaliers, and they're not the same. I know the Cavaliers this year were disappointing. They're embarrassing. They went out with their tail between their legs. But this was the first time, nearly the first time in NBA history where a team lost 3 different All-Stars that missed time in a playoff series. The Cavaliers were bruised by injuries. DeAndre Hunter was a 6th Man of the Year candidate. He was dealing with a sprained right thumb, and he did not look good in the series. Evan Mobley missed a game, and he really didn't get it going until the final elimination game, because when you have a big that fluid and he's dealing with an ankle injury, it's going to affect how he's moving. And the defense took a huge hit. And then you build off of that Darius Garland missing the first couple of games, and then Donovan Mitchell dealing with injuries too. I just hate when people try to make that comparison when clearly what the Cavs needed was a bit of health. I will acknowledge that Hawk team made the conference finals, but they were healthy. And I think it's frustrating when we overlook the most, and I said this on Objectively Biased, the most fundamental component of a playoff run is a team being healthy. And if you're not healthy, you're probably not going to go on a playoff run or have much of a chance to. And this series, the Pacers were completely healthy. The Cavaliers were the inverse of that. The Pacers were the better team, but that's partly a byproduct of fortune, and the Cavaliers didn't have it. I think when you look in the mirror, probably address that in some of the roster construction because you want to build a durable team. And I think, admittedly, right now they don't quite have it.
I agree with you.
Last thing I'll say, we talk, I wouldn't say often, but whenever we talk LeBron James trades, it always feels like, number one, would LeBron like ever be okay with this? And number 2, like, would the Lakers actually move off LeBron? That trade, and I don't even know if like it's hard because Cleveland is giving up a ton for a guy that could like retire in a year. But that is the one trade that's ever come up that's like, you know what? LeBron would say yes to this. It makes sense for the Lakers for sure because you get so much depth and a center that you desperately need. For me, it might be more on the Cleveland side. It's like, are you willing to take this chance knowing that Bron could leave in a year? Because that's starting five. I mean, you'd have Garland, Mitchell, Bron, Mobley, and you would just need a fifth, right? You just need
Strus.
Max Strus, yeah, I guess, right? So that's interesting.
Yeah, no, it makes sense for both sides because the Lakers aren't going to find a center as good as Jared Allen anywhere. I mean, we're talking about like Steven Adams free agency signings and stuff like that. Maybe Rob Willer, Claxton dream scenario. Jared Allen's the best they're going to get. You get DeAndre Hunter, who's a wing who can hit shots. That is the Luka model of way of winning games. Dean Wade, big body, more size for them. And then LeBron gets to go to a contender and he can win a championship. Like LeBron with this team next year, they could win a championship.
They'd be favored. Like absolutely they'd be favored if they got LeBron.
Yeah. Nice. I thought of that while I was watching the game.
I thought when you first said there's a team that needs a center, of course I went to the Lakers, and you start naming these players, I'm like, you are not getting all this for fucking Austin Reeves and a couple of first round picks.
If this was Drew, the package would have been Vando and fucking DFS.
Gabe Vincent.
If you get Vando, DFS, and a 2030 pick.
Swap.
Okay, so you have a couple more super chats. Michael Bush goes, here's the difference. Brunson plays in the East, Shea plays in the West, a man's league.
I mean, who's played tougher defense so far? Is it Asar Thompson, Drew Holiday, Derek White, and Jaylen Brown, or whatever Memphis?
Christian Brown, Payne Watson, Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, like
literally.
I think that's an unfair notion.
Noham Tekel goes, we beat the full Cavs roster in games 4 and 5. Can we respect be had for the Pacers? We should be favorites against the Knicks.
I think you'll be slightly favored, but I don't think it'll be crazy.
We're going to be favored.
The Pacers are like
the Knicks will be favored, but I think the Pacers should be.
Yes.
I think the Pacers are like minus 130 is my guess.
Burke, going out 4-1 threes in a row. Don't run it back. Circumstances, man. Circumstances.
It's tough.
But don't run it back. Go get LeBron. Daniel goes, Spurs get Dylan. Where do you rank this young core?
1.
Oh, the Spurs. Oh, I don't know.
Because you're not including Shea. Shea's over 25.
John has a man crush on Dylan Harper.
Not a man crush. I think he's one of the best guard prospects we've seen in the last decade.
You said that for Scoot Henderson, too.
He's better than Scoot, though.
The nastiness of the Scoot stuff. He is better than Scoot, though. Jason Hunya goes, Mobley is the problem when his offense isn't good yet in this series. He's got to go back to the lab and improve his offense. Allen needs to go now. I thought Mobley really played well this game.
He was great. And like we're gonna sit here like Mobley didn't take a huge leap in the regular season. Like Mobley gets in the lab. Mobley works on his game. I have no doubt in my mind that he's 23? Like
yeah.
Okay.
No, literally.
The 3-point shooting was a big thing. And I think that was along with his physicality, he definitely got better offensively. I just think it's a matter of health.
That's gonna do it for us. Make sure you guys like the stream and subscribe to the channel. I'm hoping that we can get to 70,000 subscribers before the playoffs ends. We're probably like a month away from that. So I think it is very possible, especially with the way you guys been hitting that sub button. So I think it can happen. Make sure you guys like the stream so it gets out there in the algorithm. And if you want to support us further, go on Prize Picks and use code PAS. Now, I am not advocating for you to gamble. I am not advocating for you to spend money that you probably don't have. But do you have do you have $5? Could you play $5 and get $50 and some free plays? I think maybe that's a little bit possible. So if you guys want to support the podcast further, go to Prospects and use code PAS. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time.